So as part of the debt ceiling debate, the trillion-dollar coin is being tossed around as a way to avoid any standoff between the two sides. The idea is that the Treasury can mint the coin, deposit it at the Federal Reserve, so that the government can pay its bills. But noted economist Jim Grant thinks it's a bad idea. He does, however, have his own unique solutions to this looming crisis. Jim Grant joins us right now from Grant's Interest Rate Observer, and it's great to see you again, Jim.
Well, thank you, Maria. Nice
Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us once again. So you don't think this trillion-dollar coin is the answer?
That is an urban legend.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we need to do, I think, first of all, is to speak clearly about this problem we have, this debt problem. For example, Secretary of the Treasury is not the Secretary of the Treasury. It is Secretary of the debt, there being no net treasure in the Treasury, right? So we must speak clearly about this. So we use the word trillion. Use the word trillion. A trillion is a million. A trillion is an incomprehensible number that we throw around, and it numbs us, and we must speak of it in a weight. So $1 trillion is 22 million pounds of $100 bills. 16 trillion is 360 million pounds of $100 bills. That's just to set the table.
Unbelievable. And we have a chart here that shows the federal debt limit in the trillions, above 16 trillion.
Well, the first trillion took 64 years to accomplish. That was 1981.
Okay.
And that was when interest rates were, as you know, you don't remember, you weren't around when you were in kindergarten.
No,
but
in
1981, they were 15%. So the constraints on borrowing used to be interest rates and the gold feature of the dollar. You could exchange $35 for an ounce of gold. There was only so much gold, only so many dollars. We have neither the gold covering the dollar, nor do we have interest rates constraining us. The only thing remaining to constrain us is some sort of civil discussion and numerate discussion about the debt. And the debt is astounding. And I feel that with so much of this discussion about trillions, that people don't really grasp what it means.
No, they don't. And I think the average person out there certainly does not understand the downside to what we're talking about and the risks.
Right. So since I don't know 30 years or so, the debt has increased twice as fast as federal receipts. The United States is truly a submerging credit. It's a great country. It seemingly is indestructible as a country, but our fiscal problems are enormous, and they are they're at rock bottom a monetary problem. When the Federal Reserve, that is to say, I should call it by its proper name, when the Bureau of Money Materialization, we don't call it a central bank because it's not that. It's a Bureau of Money Printing.
Okay.
When the Fed can materialize dollars on a computer screen, that is no constraint either. So what we have is a fiscal problem, but really the underlying problem is monetary.
Before I ask you for some solutions and what might work, did you find any encouragement in the nominating of Jack Lew to this very important post of Treasury Secretary today?
Well, he does not remind me of Alexander Hamilton.
That's all you're going to say?
That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
But I'll give him a chance to be Alexander Hamilton. But
why not?
But an earnest of intentions of a new Secretary of the Debt would be to, first of all, talk in English about our problems. Right. And secondly, to understand that the remedies put forth so far have been all political and rhetorical, right? And what we want is the stern stuff of a monetary approach. We want a dollar exchangeable into something tangible, real, and scarce and precious, namely gold bullion. That's what we used to have from the founding to 1971, more or less, off and on, mostly on. And we have not had that for the past, since 1971, so it's 40-odd years. And what we need is at least a discussion about the nature of our monetary problem that really is the fundamental source of our fiscal problem.
Why would that work, going back to the gold bullion?
Well, because there's only so much gold. There can only be so many dollars.
There's a limited amount. There's
right.
a limited supply.
You don't have to rely on the goodwill of our politicians to limit their spending because they are constrained by the nature of our monetary material. Now, when Senator Obama in 2006 bewailed the debt, when he voted against the debt ceiling going up in 2006.
And now he wants unlimited.
Right. But he said that we rely on foreigners to pay our bills. Then foreigners in the shape of central banks and exchequers owned about $1.5 trillion of our treasuries and mortgages. $1.5 trillion in 2006. Today they own almost twice as much. So it is utterly out of control, but for reasons that all too few people understand. It's not about the $1 trillion coin, although it is an interesting allusion to what is really at root the problem.
Right.
The problem is the nature of our money.
And we're not explaining this. We're not speaking English about it. Let me get your take on when the markets might start figuring this out and reacting to it. I mean, right now we know where rates are going to be for a long time. Bernanke has told us, Mario Draghi has told us, that interest rates are going to be at rock bottom levels until at least 2015.
Well, we know where money market interest rates will be if they are true to what they're laying out.
Right.
But we don't know where bond yields will be.
So we got a chart here. We have a chart here, rather, of 30-year Treasury yield and the federal debt ceiling. When would you expect these markets to start reacting and actually
5 years ago
see a spike?
5 years ago.
So it can happen any day. I mean, is there a catalyst that you look at that says, okay, the market's going to figure out that we can't afford any of this and we can't pay our bills?
Look, the currency is faith-based. The debt ceiling is preposterous, and the language is anodyne. It is bent, and it does numb us as a body politic to the truth. So it seems to me that the bond market begins to encounter problems when people begin to focus on the meaning of the word trillion, when they begin to focus on the meaning of the reserve currency franchise we have that allows us to pay our bills in the dollars that we can materialize on a computer screen. When people begin to think about our finances in down-to-earth, real ways, then they will begin, I think, demanding fewer treasuries at yields less than the measured rate of inflation.
You're expecting a big fight over this in the coming weeks?
I hope so. I think that the big hope we have for this debt is, in fact, a great big political brawl with a good portion of the disputants invoking the real problem, which is a monetary problem. There ought to be a problem. There ought to be a fight.
Yeah.
Bring it.
We'll be watching. I'm waiting for these markets to react, but you're right. I mean, we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
Jim, always nice to have you on the
program. Thank you, Brian.
Nice to be here. We so appreciate it. We'll see you soon. Jim Grant, founder, editor of Grant's Interest Rate Observer.